Hi there, Bijou Juju. I'm Mickey and she's Steve. And we're going to do something a little different for Halloween. Notice the pumpkin pillows. Hand me the pumpkin lights, hon. If she wanted to do pumpkin lights, we couldn't figure out what to do, so here they are, pumpkin lights.
They're really orange. They
Halloween.
don't look like yellow in there.
Uh, we have a gargoyle that we bought 4 or 5 years ago when we were visiting our son in Tennessee, and we named him Herman, and he inspired us to write a children's book, which, there it is, children's book, and it's called Herman. And so we decided to try reading it. So this is not going to be something that most adults who watch us blather on are going to enjoy. It's more for your kids, grandkids, or children that you just want to annoy. So, yes. So, anyway, enjoy the story, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Hello, boys and girls. This story I'm about to read you is based on a real gargoyle who lives right outside our front door. I think you saw a picture of him. Anyway, this story is about Herman by Stephen and Michelle Thomas. Herman sat where he always did. The other gargoyles looked like they were about to take off, with wings spread and silly looks on their faces. Herman sat by himself, with his chin on his fist and a disgruntled look on his face. Day after day, Herman sat alone, watching people come and go. Most don't even look at gargoyles. The few who did liked the ones with the wings spread wide. Herman's were not spread. They were folded neatly like any self-respecting gargoyle would. There had been 3 snows since Herman had come to Franklin's Garden Center. 3 snows was a long time for most humans. Gargoyles live much longer than humans. Still, it seemed like a long time. Herman wanted to do what a gargoyle is made to do. He wanted to protect something. Gargoyles are meant to protect people and places from nasty, go bump in the night things. Why, when night comes and the whole world is asleep, gargoyles watch and wait. If something nasty, hairy, scary comes, the gargoyles grow to 3 times their size. They spread their wings wide and prepare for battle. Usually just the sight of them is enough to scare away any spine shiverers. That's what Herman wanted to do. Herman was sitting, resting his chin on his fist like he always did, when suddenly 2 humans stopped right in front of him. There was a little human, too. She was much smaller than the others. She must be a child, Herman thought. "Honey, are you sure?" one of them said. "Yes," the little human replied. "Don't you want one of those with their wings spread?" the other big human said. "No, I don't want them. They look silly with their tongues sticking out. This one looks sad, like he needs a home." "I guess we know what that feels like," the first big human said. "Let's see how heavy this little guy is." There was some grunting and groaning as Herman was lifted up and carried to the biggest car he had ever seen. It had a door like a house in the side of it. Later, he learned that this wasn't a car at all. It was called a motorhome. Herman was a little disappointed about that. I'll tell you why in a minute. Herman learned that there was a big human named Mom and another big human named Dad. He'd been right when he thought the little one might be a child. He learned she was, and her name was Honey. Each night they would stop somewhere, and Honey would insist that Dad put Herman outside to stand guard. It was on the 3rd night, the night of reckoning. You see, until now, Herman wasn't really Herman. A gargoyle has to be named in order to receive his commission to a family. Many gargoyles spend centuries without a name. It really is a shame, too. A named gargoyle is a much stronger gargoyle. Anyway, it was getting time for bed. Honey had brushed her teeth and had her hair brushed out. Mom was saying that Honey should get in bed. "Put Herman out, Dad." "Herman? Since when is the gargoyle Herman?" "Dad, a gargoyle's got to have a name. He can't get his family if he isn't named." How did she know that? "We can't be his family if we don't name him. I was just waiting until the right name came to me." "Herman?" Dad asked again. This was getting irritating. "Come on, Dad," Herman thought. "Let her give me a name." "Yeah, Herman," Honey said. "You know, I'm a girl, so I'm a her. And Herman's my main man, my protector," she said in a gravelly voice that made Mom look at her strange. Who was this child again? "Well, you know," Dad said, "I think Herman is a good name for him." "Yeah," Mom said, "he kind of looks like a Herman." Herman was set outside, and Dad even commanded him to keep watch. What a night this was going to be. He had been named and commanded. There was only one thing lacking. Place. Herman had learned that his humans used to have a home, but Dad lost his job, whatever that was, and then someone called Bank came and took their house away. He must have been very strong. Now they lived in a motorhome and traveled to wherever Dad could get work. Sometimes Mom worked too, but they wouldn't work at the same time because then there was no one to be with Honey. Except Herman. The problem was, how could Herman guard a place when the house, or in his case, the motorhome, kept moving? Herman had heard of a thing called a castle, and he thought, how lucky the gargoyles who guarded that castle were. It doesn't move. You're always guarding the same place. You learn it, every little cranny. Herman's place moved a lot. He could never learn to guard it when the land it sat on each night could be different. Each night he would guard his humans while they slept. Sometimes he had someone to talk to, sometimes he didn't. Most of the time they were friendly. Sometimes not. It was that way with the lumper. Herman sat in front of the home. He liked calling it a home rather than a motor home. It sounded more solid and guarded. That's when he heard it. Lump, 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 lump. Herman rose up to his full height. Only 7 feet, but he was still growing. He had just rounded the corner of the house when he saw him, Lumper. Herman had heard about this guy. Every gargoyle had. Lumper made that sound. Lump, 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 lump. You had to catch him before he knew you were there, or he made a terrible screechy, screamy sound that would wake up your humans. The trouble was, Lumper didn't always make that lump sound. Lump, 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 lump. Sometimes they were quiet. And when they were quiet, it was like any sound. Even a caterpillar's breath sounded loud. Herman waited. Lumper started to swing his arms again. That's what made the sound, you see. His arms would swing, and they would hit the house, first one and then the other. Lump, 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 lump. Herman lunged at Lumper on the third lump. Crash! Herman slammed into Lumper. Lumper was about to let loose a screechy screamer, but Herman clamped his hand over Lumper's mouth. "No screechy screamies," Herman growled. Lumper knew he was at the mercy of a named gargoyle. This gargoyle was powerful. Lumper just nodded his head. He knew that this gargoyle was not one to play with. Suddenly Lumper's eyes grew wide. Herman couldn't see what Lumper saw, but he could tell whatever it was. It was terrifying. Herman turned to see. Lumper took the chance to jerk away from Herman's grip. He was gone in the blink of a gnat's eye. And that's pretty fast, you know. When Herman turned, If he had blood, it would have frozen. There, not more than 3 feet from his own nose, was the most horrendous, most terrifying, most dreaded sight. Honey looked out the window and saw. She saw the lumper. She saw Herman. Not like she usually saw him, squatting down, resting his chin on his fist. This was 7-foot Herman. He really was growing. This was Herman with wings spread. The sword that usually hung at his back was drawn. Honey looked at him a long time. It was forever. Herman knew. He counted. Slowly a smile crept on Honey's face. She waved at Herman, and her head sank below the window to find its pillow. How could Herman have been so careless? You are never supposed to let one of your humans see you in power. Herman knew she slept under that window. He should have taken Lumper to the back of the motor home where no one could have seen them. Herman sat by the step up to the motor home, the same place he sat every night when he wasn't guarding or scaring away Bump in the nights. He sat and he worried. The sun came up and Herman wondered what would happen. He could smell Mom cooking their breakfast. He waited to see what they would do. Would they make him leave? Would they all want to see him in power? He couldn't allow that, but they had named him. What would he do? The door suddenly opened, and Herman was so lost in his worrying that if he could have jumped, he would have. Dad walked toward him. Dad walked past him. He stopped. Dad looked toward Herman, but not at him. I really should fix that awning, he said. He turned and walked away, calling for Honey to follow him to pick berries. That was it? No. You broke the most sacred rule speech. Honey walked past and patted his head. Don't worry. I'll never tell. Herman rested his chin on his fist and wondered, how did she know this? How did she know this? Honey was only 7 human years when Herman joined them. Over the next 5 years, Herman stood his guard every night. Every night, Honey would pat Herman on the head and ask him to protect them. There had been some intense battles, but most nights there was really nothing to do. Honey caught him once more in power. It had just been last year. He had been trying to subdue a scritcher from making scratching noises on the window. Honey looked out just as Herman was giving the scritcher a hard kick in the seat. Herman was now at his full 8.5 feet tall. I told you he would grow. Anyway, Herman was in full power when Honey looked out. When he saw her, she just smiled and gave him a thumbs-up sign. Herman felt relieved. He was glad she liked him and appreciated all he did for them. That seemed to stop the year Honey turned 12. Dad had gotten a good job, and they had sold the motorhome and bought a real house. Herman thought that was great at first. He learned the land and all around the house, and he knew how to guard it and them. The thing is, there was no more ritual of Honey asking Dad to put him outside. She didn't come out every night to ask him to protect them all. He was in the same spot all the time. They seemed to forget about him. Oh, Honey would come out and pat him as she walked by sometimes, but it seemed to be getting less all the time. Mom and Dad very rarely spoke to him. He guarded them anyway. They had named him, and he would guard them forever. One night seemed to be very special. Herman learned that it was Honey's birthday, whatever that was. Herman thought it probably meant the day she was cast. Anyway, Honey came home with some other girls from her school. One of them noticed him standing by the front door and asked what he was. "Oh, that's Herman. He's our gargoyle. He's supposed to guard our house." Supposed to guard the house? If anyone knew what he did, it was her. She knew. She saw. "He's funny looking," the girl said. "Why do you keep him?" "I don't know. I guess we just never think to throw him away." Herman's little concrete heart sank. She wanted to throw him away? He guarded her. He fought the one-eyed gut gurgler for her. Humph. That night, when the neighbor's dog came over, Herman didn't scare him away. Let Dad find the surprise. When the Snuffler Shuffler came by, Herman just waved. The Snuffler Shuffler was so confused he just went on to Billy's house across the street. Herman always chased him. It was the best part of his night. The next morning, all the girls that had stayed the night went home. Honey came over and sat next to him. "Herman, I'm so sorry for what I said. I told them last night that you were the greatest gargoyle anyone ever had. I didn't tell them I saw you, but I told them I knew. I'm sorry. I won't ever say anything like that again." Herman smiled. For all the years of high school, Honey never once said anything like that again. Many of her dates were introduced to Herman before her parents. If they didn't like Herman, or if it was clear Herman didn't like them, they were gone. When Honey went off to college, Dad had a surprise for her. Herman sat belted in the passenger seat of her car. "What's this?" Honey asked. "Herman has guarded us over the years, but if he guarded anyone more, it was you. Take him with you, and may he guard you while you are away from us." Honey cried for the first hour of the drive. Herman felt sad, too. To leave Mom and Dad behind was hard. He was grateful that they had brought home a new gargoyle. They said they just couldn't be without one. It gave the new kid time to be trained properly. The new kid, he hadn't been named yet, but Honey admonished her parents to do so right away. He was an eager learner and showed great promise. Herman hoped they named him soon. When they got to the school, Honey was put in a room with another girl. The girl, Shelley, thought Herman was cool and said he could stay. He couldn't stand guard outside the dorm room door, so he stayed just inside. In the second year, Honey became part of a sorority, whatever that was. It seemed that Honey traded her room with one girl to be with about 20 of them. Sorority House was an old Gothic-type home that had once been somebody's mansion. Herman felt right at home guarding the outside. In the 3 years he was there, he met some other gargoyles from other buildings and homes. He found a whole new set of scary things in the night. The worst was the terrible, horrible, not to be given a chance boys. During the last month at the school, he had to chase off 2 boys from Honey's window. The first jumped so hard when Herman, in all his wing-spread, sword-raised power, landed next to him on the roof, he fell off and landed in some bushes below. Herman heard that the boy just disappeared and was never seen at the school again. The second one had just begun to sing when Herman landed next to him on the roof. First there was singing. Then, as Herman landed, there was some sort of squirrel noises coming out of the boy. He started making such a terrible racket that Herman had to fly down and resume his post before someone saw him. The boy was taken to the hospital where very nice doctors and nurses took care of him. All the girls at the sorority loved Herman, and they claimed that he was the reason that they had been safe from the guy on the roof. Honey knew exactly who to thank. She hadn't seen him. She didn't need to. She knew. What no one could figure out was why the guy from the roof kept talking about stone monkeys. Little Honey stared at Herman. Herman stared right back. Well, he always stared. That's what you do when you're a gargoyle. Mommy, he scares me, Little Honey said. There's no reason to be frightened, Big Honey told her. Herman has been my friend for a very long time. But he's scary and ugly. Well, he is scary looking, but that's why he's my friend. He scares off all the bad things. Herman is a gargoyle, and gargoyles protect us. As far as being ugly, well, I think he's the most beautiful gargoyle in the whole world. Herman would have stood a little straighter if he could. Honey went on to explain to the little girl, who was only 4 human years old, what gargoyles do and how he had been there for her over the years. Herman felt like blushing with all the praise Honey gave him. Someday, if you're really lucky, you might catch a glimpse of Herman chasing away a bump in the night or some other such creature. Then you'll know what a great gargoyle he really is. Little Honey stood there thinking about all that her mother had said. She squatted down and looked Herman in the eyes. Herman, will you be my friend and protect me like you have Mommy? Little Honey kept looking at him, waiting for an answer. Herman wanted to jump up and show her just how much he would watch over her, but it just wasn't allowed. The little girl waited a long time for him to answer. Herman just couldn't stand it. He winked one eye. Mommy, did you see? He winked at me. He really did. Honey smiled. She hadn't seen him wink, but she knew. She had sat watching him for hours when she was a little girl. She knew Herman. She knew he would watch over her daughter, just like he had watched over her all those years. Herman felt good inside. How could a gargoyle feel any different? He had been named, and he was loved.
Few minutes.
Okay, it's been a few minutes. It's actually longer than I thought. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the story. If you want to buy the book, by golly, I'll put the link to the thing in the description down there. And I think it's like $7. It's like $7 or something, which we get like 4 cents out of it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Happy Halloween. And the story is all about, tell them what it's about. Gargoyles.
Gargoyles.
And what other kinds of goyles?
Girl goyles and guy goyles. What is that?
All right. Anyway, see you later. Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Samhain. Whatever.
Gargoyles.
Gargoyles.
Gorgiles.
Gorgiles.
Gurgiles.
Yes.
Girl gals or guy girls.
Believe it or not, she's only had 1 small glass of wine this evening. Not a lot, really.
Ah, that was with dinner.
And that was with dinner. Well, anyway.
It's a tongue twister. Girl guiles, gargoyles, gargoyles. Gargoyles are guy girls. Goyles.